our favorite character in each live-action Star Wars movie.
David, I have to say, over the course of the 60 episodes that we've done this program, we've had a lot of fan comlink questions, a lot of Stash or Blasteds, a lot of hypothetical questions. This might be the hardest question I've had to come up with an answer to. Hands down.
Really?
Because you have to limit to just one. So who do you give your priority to, since some of these characters are in multiple movies? And then what if you accidentally stiff a character that you absolutely love because they were just outshined in one particular movie or another?
I think you have to decide. So what I did for this segment, and I saw this from Twitter for full transparency, okay? Because a lot of people have been sharing this exact prompt and then answering. And so some people have like certain criteria, like I chose this character because they have the best quote, or they have the best action scene, they have the coolest ship, the best weapon, or they're the person I can identify with the most. I didn't give David any prompt, so we're just going to go through this, and we're going to say who and why, and hopefully we'll have different answers. We're probably going to cross over a few times.
I think looking through it, there's only one of them that we have the same answer for.
Well, let's start with the prequel trilogy. And we'll move forward. So, Phantom Menace.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Okay, I said Qui-Gon Jinn as well. Why did you say
He
Qui-Gon?
is the one character that left me wanting more.
And then you've gotten more.
Well, I mean, he kind of died, but...
Well, right.
Yeah, but a
reason...
little bit. I mean, like comics and other stuff, but Liam Neeson, I want to see more of him.
Well, and, truthfully, he was supposed to be in Revenge of the Sith, we learned. He was supposed to be in a scene where he appears to Obi-Wan, but he was, like, in a car crash or something. So they had to scrap the scene, which is, I think, ultimately why we got that scene with Yoda and Obi-Wan at the very end, where Yoda's like, oh, well, he's learned a way to live beyond, or whatever, however that dialogue goes. For that reason, yes. Qui-Gon, yes. Qui-Gon had it right. He saw the imperfections of the Jedi Order, specifically the Council, and we saw that with Jody Houser's single-shot Age of Republic comic. We're hopefully going to see more of that in Claudia Gray's novel coming out in April. That he had a better understanding of balance with the Force, and I want to see that more explored because of what we got here in Phantom Menace. The guy's a great duelsman. You ultimately learn in the next movie that he is the apprentice of Dooku, now turned Sith. He's this accomplished Jedi. Just the tug and pull that he had with the Council, that now we know that he actually had an invite to join and he declined it. That's really interesting to me. I want to know the dynamics there. Why the Council was against Qui-Gon? What created that rift initially? Was it just because he's always been this stubborn? So that's pretty cool. And of course, he was the one that sensed Anakin, which it becomes muddled now what this prophecy is. But up until 2015, I just was under the assumption that ultimately Anakin was the chosen one, and Qui-Gon was able to sense it in this young boy. So I went with Qui-Gon. Attack of the Clones, though, I went Mace Windu because Mace Windu is the guy from the very beginning who saw this young boy that Qui-Gon brought forward and was like, this boy is trouble. And not only does he say that he's worried about Anakin, maybe there's not trust in Anakin, of course, that's more alluded to in Episode 3, we get to see Mace Windu with that purple lightsaber take the battlefield. He is intense. He's this party is over. Cheesy, yes, but as an 11-year-old in the theater, I freaking loved it. It was cliche. It was not good writing. I loved it. And John mentioned earlier that he didn't like the Braveheart moment where it's all the Jedi running at it. But you know what? That's all I wanted to see growing up, was just like, I want to see what the Clone Wars are like. What is this war that Obi-Wan told Luke about so many years ago on Tatooine? Like, I want to know what that was like. And just to get some kind of interpretation of it, it's pretty cool.
I read somewhere, I may have read an interview with Sam Jackson, why he has the purple lightsabers because of that scene. George showed that to Sam Jackson, said, what do you think? And Sam Jackson said, where am I? And that's why they gave him the purple lightsaber, so he could see where he was.
And I love
and
that.
It stuck.
And I love that. That's the fun of Star Wars. And also knowing that Sam Jackson is like the biggest, like he's a huge Star Wars fan. So that's pretty cool. You did not pick Mace Windu.
I did not, and I 100% respect your opinion on Mace Windu because I almost went with that.
Okay.
However, I had to go down the dark side of the Force, and I picked Count Dooku.
Okay.
Because he's menacing, he's frightening, he's from the shadows, and then that scene with him and Yoda fighting just got me going.
I think Count Dooku is a great choice, especially if you've invested in the Clone Wars, because I think that Dooku was most underutilized in the story and best unserved by the story. Lucas needed a villain to replace Maul, which he said multiple times following he wishes he would have kept him going because he didn't expect him to be so popular with the fans. So he throws in Dooku, and Dooku, you went from this really cool horned double lightsaber dueling guy to an old white man with basically a fencing style.
But I like that. I mean, I liked both of them for different reasons.
But Dooku does prove to be a great challenge for a more mature Obi-Wan, for a young Anakin. He gets to escape from Yoda. We learn that he's a great duelsman. But when you watch Clone Wars, there's so much more to this character. Just what we saw with Jodie Hauser's one-shot on Age of Republic last week, there's so much more to this character, this Jedi turned Sith.
That's what I love about him.
He's part of the Lost 20. We talked about that too.
100% why I like him is because he's a fallen Jedi. He got disenfranchised with everything going on in the Jedi Order and said, you know what? We're just going to go down this path today and try to help more people because this is what I think is right.
I think for Revenge of the Sith, as we move forward, and again, I want to know we want to know what your favorite character is for each of these movies. So if you're in the live chat with us, make sure that you are sharing those characters with us. If you're watching us on the rewind, in the comments down below, honestly, even if you're joining us live, after this stream, come back to this video, please, and in the comments down below, put your list, your favorite characters of every movie. We want to know what you think. We want to continue the Star Wars conversation. I think it'd be a lot of fun to do that in the comments. So be sure you do that. So whether live or on the rewind, comment down below with that list. Revenge of the Sith. I originally said Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I want to go to Palpatine. I want to switch it.
You're going to switch it. You're going to pick Palpatine.
You can stick with Palpatine too, because I think you and I had the same view on this movie.
This was a coin toss for me 100%, whether it was an Obi-Wan or Palpatine. And it is because of the actors who played them. I feel like I need to say Obi-Wan because of Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
And we didn't give him a nod in the last two movies. So I feel like I need to pick that. But I also feel like this is where Ian McDiarmid was his best as Palpatine. This is where we get to see him fight. This is where we get to see him do his most manipulation. Where he's the most menacing to me is in this movie. So for me, it is a coin toss between who I think is the better portrayal.
I think that when I think of Palpatine overall, I think he might be my favorite character overall in the saga because he's so well executed. You get Ian McDiarmid to do him, technically it wasn't him in Empire, but it was him in Return of the Jedi. And I think that was one of the good things changed about when George went back to do the special editions, putting Ian McDiarmid in there for Empire. But then he gets to come back years later and do these prequel trilogies. And I just think that of all the character development that we've seen in the movies, Palpatine and his transition to Emperor and his ultimate fall was the best told story. And I think you're finally seeing that transition from corrupt politician to the Dark Lord of the Sith, pulling away the curtain and revealing himself to the galaxy. And now the galaxy is under the rule of a Sith. I thought that worked very well, and it's because the toss-up here is this. Ewan McGregor is my favorite part of the prequels, but my favorite scene in Star Wars is the opera scene in Revenge of the Sith.
Have you ever heard the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
And you have basically Palpatine revealing himself to Anakin, and then all the speculation, because is it how involved is Palpatine in this plan? Is Plagueis still around? Is Anakin Skywalker naturally born as the will of the Force, or did Palpatine and Plagueis manipulate the Force to create life? You have all those right points. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to go with Palpatine. But I think Obi-Wan Kenobi should be just taken off the table as a default, that he could be applied for any of those movies because his growth too and his impact was just extraordinary.
Hopping into the live chat before we get to Rogue One, we have a couple people chiming in. Marie Wilson, I don't know if you got the prompt right. This is your favorite character, not the least favorite. Her Phantom Menace is Jar Jar, her Attack of the Clones is Padme, and her Revenge of the Sith is Anakin.
Let her have her fun.
That would be at the bottom of my list, but I respect what you're doing there. Especially if you're a kid, you like Jar Jar because he's funny. Mando Furier, our buddy Jesse, who's out today, he says Qui-Gon for Episode 1, Episode 2 Django, go figure, and Episode 3 Obi-Wan.
I can't wait for when we get to the original trilogy because he's just going to go Boba for Empire and Return. And then even honestly, he could say Boba for A New Hope because of the special editions. We also have Gannon in here. Good to see Patrick Covey again. Shout out to him if you haven't watched it already. Issue number 7 of Beyond the Panel. But he's in there saying that he didn't even know about the Lost 20 until I think he's talking about Ken Napzok from Collider Jedi Council, brought up a few weeks ago. I didn't know about the Lost 20 until a couple of months ago when it was brought up in a comic book. The Lost 20 is the list of the Jedi Masters who left the Jedi Order.
And they weren't all at once. It's
No,
like over the
over-
entire
Yes.
multi-thousand-year span of the
Yes.
Jedi Order.
And in the expanded universe, there was a comic book series where Anakin comes back to the temple and he comes into Jocasta Nu, I think it was, or maybe it might have been a different Jedi. I don't think it was Jocasta Nu, but he comes and encounters a Jedi and he's like, well, I'm part of the Lost 20. It's the Lost 21 now. And the Jedi's like, well, no, because you were never a Jedi Master. And then Vader goes into rage mode and just slaughters because he doesn't like being reminded that he never made it to the rank of Master. But the Lost 20 is really interesting, and we're actually trying to do a video on it, breaking down like all the members, but we just don't know anything. All we know is that their busts are the ones that line the library in the Jedi Temple. So yeah, I just want to say thanks to everyone joining us in the live chat. If you haven't already, be sure you hit that thumbs up button. Hit that bell if you haven't already. Let's talk Solo though. What's your favorite character?
Chewie.
Is that why?
I love Chewie in general.
Is it weird though that Chewie looks the oldest in Solo and the youngest in The Last Jedi?
Not really.
Okay.
One of the things that I love about this portrayal of Chewie is just how gritty and ferocious and really untamed, I guess is how I'd phrase it. You know, he's throwing people on their heads and snapping their necks and just really being a violent alien.
Which is different from what we've seen based on the original trilogy, because he kind of just stands there, and then you always hear about, well, you know, but you've never seen a Wookiee pull the ears off of Gandalf. Or
And now
whatever.
we have, so, and that's pretty cool.
And it's pretty great. I think Chewie is a great pick. I think we're gonna get a lot more Chewie because we got Giannis Satamo around. There's a lot more capabilities that character's gonna have now because Jonas is this. He's an athlete. He's a former basketball player. The guy's gonna be able to do a lot of cool stuff. My favorite sequence with Chewie in Solo is them on the train and going around. But I think Lando for me is my favorite, and people might say that that's like an easy grab. But I really enjoy. There is no glitch and a connection between what we got from Donald Glover as Lando as a young to what we get with Billy D. Williams. Like it's perfect continuity. I sometimes think that he's a clone of Billy D.
I can 100% believe that is the same character.
That's Lando. That's Lando. And I'm hoping that we get more. There is a rumor that there's a Lando Kira series in the works for Disney Plus. That's just a rumor. But I'd be okay with more Donald Glover as Lando. I was hoping to get a Solo too. But I'm going to go with Lando on that one. Rogue One, I'm going to go with Draven, David Straven. He is the rebel commander that goes to Jin. Who are you? Like he's like the real condescending guy. But I think he's really a cool, like visual character. I wish I looked like him. I think he's a good looking dude.
He's the commander guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I just had to Google him.
He's part of one of my favorite scenes in Rogue One. I wanted to pick something that was like different because I felt like a lot of people could go to like Admiral Raddus or Cassian or K2S2, but I want to go with Dravitz because he's part of maybe the best musical moment of that movie where he's there. They take off from Yavin 4. They go fly around that one temple, and it's the original theme that kind of starts to swell. And I feel like here's a guy like just in the middle of the war, and at the time, I thought Draven was this guy that we were getting in Rebels, and I thought that was going to be the ultimate reveal that Callus was actually Draven, and I was going to lose my mind because I was like, at the time, I don't think I knew or we knew that like Hera was going to get a shout out in the movie, that we were going to see the ghost, and so I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to connect the cartoon with
the live action
movie. But then we also got Saw Gerrera, but also it wasn't Callus. Callus actually goes off and lives out of bromance. So that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. Dang it.
I'm going to pick director Krennic.
I knew you were going to do this, and that's fine.
I love Orson Krennic 100%.
It was a toss-up for me, dude. He's so good. He's so good, and he's like that maniacal villain that he's just a bad dude, and he's just trying to do his job.
But that's what I like. He's trying to do his job. Exactly. He's not trying to set out for genocide. He's not trying to set out for, personal reasons. He wants to do good at his job to get a promotion, 100%. And I can respect that.
Marie is in the live chat, and she's like, Raddus without a doubt. And I'm so with her on that. So with you. I can't type and talk at the same time, apparently. I can't really multitask. But no, I think Raditz is a great one. I think Krennic is the best. I think Krennic has the coolest ship. Of all the Imperial baddies we've gotten so far, I think I like his shuttle the most. So I think those are really solid character choices so far.
I'm really interested in the next 3 movies, David. We're getting into the original trilogy.
Yep.
And I know that you have a very, very big history of loving these movies because of the experiences you've had with your father. So I'm curious to see who your favorite picks are for A New Hope, Empire, and Return.
So for A New Hope, it's wrong on the show notes.
Okay.
It is most definitely Luke Skywalker.
I figured that was probably what you were going to say.
Because I think any young kid can, boy or girl, you don't know, like you're growing up of age, you want adventure, you think you're indestructible, you want new opportunity. So how I interpret Luke's position in the galaxy and in the story has evolved as I've gotten older. Really changed when I learned about the hero's journey as a freshman in Mr. Doyer's English class. And I'm like, this is Star Wars. And he's like, actually, the Iliad did this a few thousand years before. Oh, okay, I get it. So, but like Luke is that character that I identify with. I think a close second would be Han, though, because he's just like the cool-looking, funny guy.
And he shot first.
He shot first, David. And he ultimately gets the girl, which is pretty cool. So, but I'd have to go with Luke just because of how much my perception of that character has evolved as I've gotten older. It's just first started out, I want to get a lightsaber. And then it's, well, I want to go on an adventure. Oh, I don't really know where I am in this world. I want to have a better meaning. I want to have a more value to this world than what maybe other people think I'm worth. And it just continues to change. And I think that's beautiful. Not that I'm trying to say like what my view is beautiful. I just think that the power of great storytelling, the device of the hero's journey is pretty cool. What's your pick?
So like 10-year-old David Gilbert would have
Yes.
said R2-D2.
Okay.
Hands down.
Okay.
Because I love R2-D2. I love his beeps. I love his bloops. I love his creeps and sweeps. I love R2-D2. Adult David Gilbert would probably say Obi-Wan Kenobi because I like the old wise Jedi wizard.
You don't get a lot of screen time with Alec Guinness in that first movie.
But the screen time that he does have is impactful. It's worth it. He's there for a reason, not just to show his pretty face.
Alec Guinness and his ability to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, to me, makes the Force the mystical force that it is. You know what I'm saying? Because he shows up at first, he's just this kooky old man in a cloak. And then you start learning about the lightsaber, the Force, the Clone Wars. He has to go to Alderaan to meet the princess. But then he does that mind trick, on that stormtrooper. And seeing him just use the lightsaber for a moment in the cantina. And then you just go through every moment of his. The Force trick on the stormtroopers at the Death Star. The fact that when he's dead, he's still able to communicate with Luke. That's that's a mysticism that just was like so incredibly cool.
Without that character, this would not be an entertaining story, and this would not be a 40-year-old franchise worth multi-billions of dollars.
Yeah, I can dig that. So what's your take on Empire?
Empire. Oh, Yoda. I think I may have shared with you on the show before, my first exposure was when I was at Thanksgiving at my Aunt Marilyn's house, and my cousins are also nerds, and they had Empire Strikes Back on the TV, and I was like, whatever, I was a kid, I was playing, and then I walk in, and there's this little green puppet on TV, and he's talking funny, and he's making funny noises, and eating Luke Skywalker's food, and that is the moment I fell in love with Star Wars in second grade.
See, I like Yoda in that scene for the reason that he's completely messing with Luke. It is not that
He's
Yoda,
kind of a jerk.
Yoda's not kooky. He is messing with Luke. He is well aware why Luke is there. I mean, that's my headcanon, is the fact that he knows that why Luke is there, and he knows how this is going to play out. Like, I think he has that ability. I don't think he has like foresight like Quinlan Voss, but I think he's kind of able, like he says in the movies, the Force sometimes allows you to see in the future, but your actions can manipulate that. I'm paraphrasing. And so that's why I liked Yoda, is because maybe he was like 900-something years old, but that dude, he was there in isolation waiting for this moment. And he just was hoping that the kid would be strong enough to try and go after Vader. So I thought that was really cool. When I think about Empire Strikes Back, though, I have to go with Luke again because I'm boring. No, because how cool is it the first time you saw Empire Strikes Back and he's in the Wampa Cave and you see his lightsaber got thrown all the way over there and like he puts his hand out, and you're like, what? And then you start to see the twitch of the saber hilt, and then which, by the way, they actually shot that in they reversed motion. So he's actually tied upside down, and they had him throw the saber, and that shot is actually played backwards for the force effect. Isn't that cool?
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that sweet? So they had to record it backwards in a way, and then they played it out backwards. I don't know. It was pretty cool. Fun fact. But again, when I talk about how like my evolution, the understanding of Luke and my ability to relate to and empathize with him, that is the pivotal movie because now he's starting to learn how to manipulate the Force himself. He is learning how to use it. He's displaying a lot more wisdom now, which you might be like, well, when he's on Dagobah, he's kind of whiny with Yoda. Yeah, but there is progress. Like the ability for him to concentrate in the cave. He gets there, he survives Vader. But there is like some closure there when he's on the Falcon escaping Cloud City. He is acknowledging, he's just going to take, there's no hesitation. The moment now he knows that Vader is his father, he accepted as truth. At least that's the impression I get from watching those movies. And it's the character goes up in wisdom levels like 10,000 fold because he's got a new direction now. It's not about killing Vader and destroying the Empire. It's about saving his father, which sets up all of what we get in Return of the Jedi. Speaking of Return of the Jedi, I think Vader's my favorite character.
You want to talk about a movie that I think significantly decreased in enjoyment after the special editions? It's Return of the Jedi.
Why do you say that?
I don't like the majority of the changes they made. I don't like the extra songs, that dance routine in Jabba's palace. I don't like changing the Yub Yub song. I don't like Hayden Christensen being there at the end.
I thought, but you know what doesn't change is Vader. And I think that's the most dynamic character in the movie because, of course, you have the complexities of Luke having to now get his father, save his father, and have that redemption story play out. But you're talking about Vader, who has gone from this innocent boy on Tatooine to being this Padawan learner who feels held back from his master, then not having the respect of the council, to trying to find respect somewhere else, so he turns to the dark side, trying to save the one he loves. You have about a 20-year span where he's doing nothing but killing and hunting and ruining people's lives. And then
protecting the galaxy.
He comes back face to face.
The Empire did nothing wrong.
Right. But he comes back face to face with his child. This is like the last thing that, when he looks at Luke, I think my assumption is he's thinking of Padme. And to see him now go from that scene on Endor where he's like, it's too late for me, son. And then going to the Death Star. And like he made it happen. He eventually turned. And was it the fact that he was watching his son get electrocuted, like viciously? Maybe. I mean, maybe that's a sick guy. Like, how far do you have to go to turn somebody? Like, you did an Ancestry.com thing, and you found out about your origins, I didn't have to electrocute,
right?
Somebody. I mean, I don't know. That's a really bad point. I'm getting off a tangent. The point here being is that I think Vader is the star of that movie, and I think Return of the Jedi gets a lot of flack. I don't think a lot of people look at that movie as exciting or as thrilling as the first two in the original trilogy. My dad says it's its favorite.
It was my favorite.
And I think it's
until the special edition changes.
And maybe that's because of Vader. But your favorite character ticks me off. I think you're full of crap.
Well, so I wrote down Wicket on the show notes.
You're such a jerk. You did write Wicket. I don't have to. Marie Wilson says that Wicket is her favorite Return of the Jedi character.
You go, girl. See, we're on the same page.
I'm so mad at you. You can think whatever you want, Marie, but he's like...
What's wrong with Wicket? Listen, he's cute. He's adorable. He has sticks and rocks to take on the Empire. My choices were him, or do you remember the scene when Luke kills the Rancor in Jabba's palace, and that guy with like the helmet, no shirt, just goes up and starts crying? I liked him too.
I do like John's point about Vader. Real quick though, he says that he doesn't like that Vader says no now as he tosses the Emperor down in the special edition version. He just wished he would have grabbed him, just grabbed Palestine, and then he corrects himself and says he meant Palpatine, not Palestine, because Vader did not grab Palestine and throw it down the elevator shaft. Or
That'd be impressive. That'd be
whatever shaft that was on the Death Star. Wicket, I think that Wicket is cute and adorable, and I'm more happy that the guy who plays Wicket is actually now like
Warwick
the most,
Davis?
Yeah, he's like the most beloved guy in Star Wars fandom now because he hosts every celebration, and he's appeared in the prequels. He was a guy on Solo. He was one of Enfys Nest crew.
Yep.
So pretty solid pick there. I'm getting out of breath here. We are at Force Awakens, and your pick is.
My pick is not going to be Poe. Absolutely not Poe. Here's where I'm going to throw out Han Solo.
Okay.
I feel like Han could have fit anywhere in the first three movies. But here's where he really makes a swan song. Here's where, to me, he feels the most Han Solo as he goes on and takes on the First Order one last time.
I still don't think that the death scene was like executed as well as it could have been. It just, for some reason, the timing felt off for me. But I'm glad that it brings you and others joy. For me, when I'm thinking of the prequel trilogy, or not the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, my favorite character is Kylo Ren. Because Kylo Ren, to me, is the best part of the sequel trilogy. The intensity that Adam Driver brings to the role, and the fact that you have the story now of Kylo, the child of Leia, who is recently on, and if you've read, Bloodlines, is, the son of Leia, who's been basically ostracized by the galaxy because it was revealed that Vader was her father. You have this basically confused boy that quit on the Jedi and went to go join Snoke, and at that time, there's all the potential. He was bad. The only problem that I had with Kylo was that he took off his helmet too soon. I wish they would not have revealed his face until The Last Jedi. I think that was a missed opportunity to just make the character a little bit more daunting.
More menacing.
But to me, like, Kylo is my favorite character, followed up by Rey, because Rey is that character that I think that a lot of young people can identify with. My experience that I had with Luke growing up, I feel like Rey is that accessible as well. What's your character? Oh, wait, you already had Han Solo, so we need to go to the Last Jedi.
Yep, Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. And I'm going to have you go first. This is the last one. Just to recap everything, because we're about done with the show. So how this started was with Phantom Menace. We had Qui-Gon for both David and I. I said Mace Windu attack the clones. Gilbert said Count Dooku. Revenge of the Sith. He said it was a toss-up between Obi-Wan or Palpatine, and I basically said the same thing. Solo, I said Lando. Gilbert was Chewie. Rogue One was Dr. Krennic for David, and I was David Straven. Or Draven. I say his name differently every time I bring it up. A New Hope, I said Luke. David said Obi-Wan. He liked Yoda for Empire Strikes Back. I liked I said Luke again, and then Return of the Jedi, I said Vader, and he went with Wicket. Force Awakens, I said Kylo. Close, and it was a tie with Rey. But then you said Solo, and for The Last Jedi, you say who is the most your favorite character from The Last Jedi?
You're not going to like this answer because you don't like the way that Johnson took this character, but Luke Skywalker.
All right, you may defend. I respect you. Listen, I've always said it. If it brings you joy, and I say this to everyone.
It does.
If it brings you joy and it works for you, then that's great. I'm glad that you're able to enjoy it.
Here's a man who's had a hard life. He's grown up in the desert, surrounded by nobody, and then he finally makes a family, and half of them get blown up, or they're constantly being threatened of being blown up, and then a lot of them die because it's war. And then he starts to rebuild the Jedi Order again, and then that kind of falls on its face. This man just constantly faced with adversity. And so it is 100% understandable that he just wants to go right out his time reflecting and being grumpy. And I love the interactions. I love, Grandpa Grumpy Luke. I love the wisdom that he had. I loved his little exchange with Yoda. And I loved the way that he had that tender moment with Leia kissing her forehead before he goes out there and, gently brushes off his shoulder and says, "See you later, kid."
I think that was probably that probably was my favorite moment. That moment with Luke and Leia there at the end, and then Yoda and Luke.
That's my favorite moment. Yep.
Like that. That's like some of the best Star Wars we've ever gotten. It really is, and I thought that was you couldn't have ended that relationship better with Luke and Leia than that scene. I thought that's something that Rian Johnson just did an extremely it was exceptional. I'm gonna go with Yoda because I really do think that scene in The Last Jedi. Maybe was my favorite scene of The Last Jedi. And I think that when I say that movie doesn't feel like a saga film, it doesn't feel like it's part of it. I feel like 1 through 7 feel connected. I don't feel like the Last Jedi does, but I think the thread that clings on, the thread that keeps that movie in line for me is bringing back Yoda. And I just thought the execution was so spot on. And what his lesson was to Luke, that our Padawan, our legacy, our Padawans are... It's what they live to be beyond us, that what they carry on. That's what determines how great of a master you are. And I thought that was really well told. So that's my pick, and that's your pick, and that's our pick. I thought that was great.
I thought it was fun.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.